So I'm actually working in SolidWorks. You'll be in XDesign, but it's a good example of where you need to go next. So you're going to need to start planning out what your sides look like. So I've put all of these into an assembly so we can see how they're in there. You'll notice that I have a circular pattern tool across the top as well as a linear pattern. So I've got both of those put in there. Plus I've got my reference lines. There's my for construction arc and my for construction lines that go from corner to corner. Remember, everything's measured from that origin piece in the middle. What you're going to do in this assignment is figure out how you're going to piece this all together. If we were just to take out and cut out 4 square sides and try and glue them together, it would never hold. The problem with that is there's not enough surface area, and the torque and the tension just from existing as a box in 3D would rip it apart after a while. So the way we're going to solve that problem is we're actually going to cut out notches along the edges. In some cases, we're going to have a tab that sticks out from the side. In other cases, we're going to have a notch that gets cut in, and then those tabs and those notches are going to fit together. So your job today is to take and figure out exactly how you're going to design the box. The easiest way to do this is to start thinking from the top down. So think about your box from the top, and do you want 4 tabs here or do you want 4 notches here? Once you figured out what you've got on the top, if you've got 4 tabs or 4 notches, then you can take and start designing a box that looks like this with the holes. Then I would come down to the sides and start figuring those out. So I have one side here. I know this side has to have a notch cut out of it because I've got a tab on the top. And then on the left and the right, I've got a notch on one side and a tab on the other. And then as I begin to rotate around and I look at my next side, you'll notice I've got the same thing. The left side is a notch, the right side is a tab. I've got another one here, left side notch, right side tab, and then my last piece. Now, the one thing that I'm missing on this is if you'll notice, I do not have a place for the power. So one of these sides has to be different. You'll notice that currently they're all the same. They all face the same direction. They all have tabs and notches in exactly the same direction. And that's totally fine. That means that you can make one of them and use it over and over and over again. You only have to make one side essentially, and then use that one side to put things in. The problem is I need at least one of them to be different so that I can cut a hole out here so that the power can go into the trinket. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to get that power cord in there. Okay, so once I've decided what my sides look like, then I can take and look at the bottom. Now, I went for ease of use. So if the top has 4 tabs on it, I made the bottom exactly the same thing. So basically, it's the same thing as the top, minus the holes cut out for the acrylic. Once again, 4 tabs all across. So once you get your idea for a plan, now you're going to come out to Google Drawing. Start with Google Drawing by creating a basic square shape that would be your side. Don't have to worry about exact measurements at this point because this is just a general plan. You can put your exact measurements in when you start designing in XDesign. The next thing you want to do is start adding squares or rectangles to show what parts are going to be cut away. So I know I want 4 tabs for my top, which means each one of the corners is going to be cut. So I'm going to put in a section here. I'm going to color that block gray so I know that it's going to disappear. I'm going to grab another square. I'm going to color another block on this side. Continue by creating squares all the way around or rectangles all the way around the outside until I finally get the shape that's left is exactly what I wanted and I'm going to have for my actual top. So I should have 4 of those. So I'm going to switch this over to gray. You may need to zoom in a little bit. It makes it a little easier if you're a little zoomed in on the shape. I'm going to try and do this out so you can see a little bit better in terms of the whole picture. And you're just going to keep adding all the way around until you finally get to the point that you realize, or you can visually see that you've got 4 tabs going around the outside or whatever you decide your shape is going to be. Then since this is the top, I also need to add my circles. So I can come back in and I need to put in my circle shape. So I'm going to go to my shapes here. I'm going to choose circle and then I'm going to put in my pattern. Same thing. I'm going to take and put that in there. I'm going to make it dark so I can see what parts are going to get cut away from this. You always want to think about cutting away from the original size. That way you can make sure that you are always going to be within the parameters. If you try and take a shape from the beginning and add to it, you run the chances of actually making it too large by the time you get to the end. So I'm going to continue on placing my circles, putting them where I want to till I can see my pattern, I can see exactly what I'm looking for, and I can create what I want, and I can see exactly what it's going to be. So now I've got all of my sides done. You can see the blue sections are where the wood that's going to be left is. And then all the gray sections are where it's going to be cut away. So my top and bottom are first. They have 4 tabs all the way around the outside. And then my top has the circles for the acrylic. I have one side with a square cut out for my power. And then all the rest of my sides look exactly the same without that extra square, with a tab on the right and a notch on the left, and then a notch on the top and the bottom so that the top and the bottom pieces can fit in. So now that it's done, I can go ahead and upload this to the assignment.